Hi, I'm Liv,
And I'm Brit.
and this is the Reclaimed Motherhood podcast.
This podcast is about coming back home to ourselves as women and as mothers.
We're here for the honest conversations, the ones about intuition, fertility, birth, parenting, relationships, holistic health, and the many seasons of womanhood that shape us.
We'll be sharing our own lived experiences, the things that we've questioned, unlearned, and reclaimed, so you feel encouraged to trust your body, your instincts, and your own inner knowing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Reclaimed Motherhood podcast. We are so excited to be here, and we just had so much fun having these conversations. And we weren't really sure what we were going to talk about at first, but we figured we would just segue right into the next thing for us, which I feel like kind of just makes more sense because we were talking about our birth stories, we were talking about pregnancy. And so we wanted to talk about postpartum, our postpartum experiences, and breastfeeding.
Yeah. And I think postpartum, I think that's just the appropriate next step because our postpartum experience is a direct reflection of our pregnancy and our birth experience. And so um, a lot of women don't put a lot of planning and thought into their postpartum, but I think it's important to plan for postpartum. Yeah.
Honestly, I completely agree. And I feel like this is an important part. Like, this conversation is important because in our society, they just talk about all the things that you're going to need, like make a baby registry of all these things.
Hmm.
And what I learned my first postpartum was I really didn't need all of these things that everybody told me that I needed. And they're like big ticket things. Like, some of them are quite expensive,
And they
like
take up a lot of space,
so much
typically.
space, so much space, and you really don't need it. So that's the thing, is that um, the what do you even call it? Like the baby market in like baby industry, I guess, where they're saying, well, you're going to need this, these bottles and this bottle warmer and this specific stroller and all of these things. It's not saying that you won't need them. Some people may choose to use those things, but like I had a crib for my daughter that I literally never used. It was literally like, oh, here's just where we can throw all of our things that like in the midst of like newborn postpartum. So we didn't even use that. But I feel like what we really need to be focusing on is things that we will actually use. And so in postpartum, so many people on the outside are focusing on the baby. The mom is obviously focusing on the baby, but I really feel like more of community needs to realize like, oh, the mom needs to be okay in order for the baby to also be okay. And
Hmm.
so take away the focus from like all of these trendy baby things that everybody tells you that you need to have, or the perfectly aesthetic nursery. um, we didn't even do a nursery this time around because my focus was, okay, well, what can I actually use postpartum? What will I actually need? And so we prepped meals. Our church started a meal train for us, and it was honestly so helpful. And we also had a doula fund for this birth as well. And so that is what I found to be helpful, is like making
Hmm.
sure that I had like all these protein, nutrient dense things. Um, Whereas last time it was just like I had all this stuff. I had so much stuff I didn't even know what to do with it. And it was just like so many things. And I honestly, that made me feel so much more overwhelmed and just like feeling like you have to write all the thank you notes and all the things. And it was just like there was so much, and you have to keep track of who gave you what. And it's just like you could just say, hey, I would like to have a meal.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like nourish the mother, you nourish the baby, right?
Yeah.
And I had the same experience. Like my first baby, I remember getting super excited and doing the whole nursery, getting it all ready
Yeah.
and organizing the drawers in the closet. And like the thing is we never used a nursery. We never
No.
even like, besides walking in there to grab clothes, maybe like that's what we used it for. So I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was just a silly amount of time and money and effort that I put into something we didn't even use. And
Yeah.
same thing with you with a crib. I had a crib for the first one, never used the crib. I had a bassinet. I got a bassinet even a second time,
Yeah,
never used a bassinet.
I know.
So I'm like, I hear you. I'm like, yeah, those things just sit around. I remember with my first one, I had one of those. It was kind of fancy at the time, like 23 years ago, but it was like a swing, right? And it played
Yeah,
some music, and I don't remember what all it did, but it was fancy at that time, 23 years ago.
yeah.
And I remember putting her in there a few different times, and I mean, it was just in the way. All these little, they're not even little. By the time you get lots of different items, they're just in the
Yeah.
way. And then outfits, you can't even get them into all of the cute little outfits
Oh
because
my
they grow
gosh.
so fast. And so it's
That
just
is
like,
so true though. Like the outfits
yeah,
are adorable, but they are not
oh,
baby or mother friendly in any capacity. Like they're so
no,
cute, but
so
babies
cute.
do not like them. And trying to get them
No,
into them is like it's like running a marathon. Like it's so
it is. It is. Well, and it's so funny too. Like even this last time around, I ended up getting the car seat that turns into a stroller, the Duna.
oh yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's so heavy and awkward. Like you can't take the car seat out and carry it. And I only used the stroller part 2 times for like a couple minutes. I didn't even use the stroller. So the car seat has literally stayed in the car,
The whole
never
time.
even really come out. And the best advice I can give other moms is it was part of my outfit is just the baby wearing like the wrap.
Like
And so
currently what I
yeah,
have on.
yeah, exactly, Liv. And that's just part of your outfit every single day is you just take your baby out of the car seat, you put them right into the carrier, and then you
It's
go
so
do your thing,
cute.
and then you take the baby out of the carrier and you put it right back in the car seat. And like
Yeah.
you want your baby on you anyways. And honestly, it's like the most convenient is wearing your baby, and you're happier, baby's happier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think there's this misconception, right? That like I was thinking about it even this time around. So I had a stroller. I got like this eco-friendly stroller with my daughter after I had her, and it was not ideal at all. It was just like I did end up using it when she was older, but when she was baby, absolutely not. She wanted nothing to do with it. I don't know why I thought she would even like it. It was just like the norm, right? It's just like keep your baby in the stroller and walk with your baby. She wanted nothing to do with being in a car seat, being in a stroller, literally nothing for
No.
probably the first like 2 years of her life. And so this
That
time
makes
around,
total sense though.
right, because but that's the thing though, is that they're like in our society, they forget about the fourth trimester, which we'll hop into in this episode. But I used all of my baby carriers every single day because it makes life easier.
Hmm.
They want to be near you, they want to be on you. But you hear so many people who are like, "Oh, my baby's crying. My baby doesn't want to be put down." I'm like, "Yeah, makes sense." They just want to hear your heartbeat.
Hmm. Yeah, that transition is not something that like we don't put a lot of thought or intention into the transition that they are making from being in the womb to earthside, that there's like this immediate like disconnect that seems totally fine with our culture when it's like no, that makes perfect sense that they only want to be on you and feel as connected and close to you as possible at all times. That makes perfect sense. Like what a
Yeah.
transition for them to make, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I didn't really think about that until after I had my daughter. Just like how different that is for them to go from being on the inside and then going through birth with the mom. Like it's not just the mom who's going through the birth, it's baby who's going through the birth too. And so then
Hmm.
when they're out here in the world and people are like, oh no, they're supposed to just be used to all the bright lights and the sounds and all these things and being in contraptions. And I'm like, no, that's like completely out of the normal, like abnormal, especially for them. And we don't know what they're
Hmm.
thinking, but I can only imagine being like, okay, I was just constantly nourished and warm and fed in my mom's womb. And now I'm in this bright, cold, loud place where I have to vocalize if I'm hungry or if I just have to vocalize anything at all to get picked up and held. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but I was thinking about it recently. I was going to try and find it. Maybe I'll see if I can find it before this podcast launches. But I remember years ago reading about this woman who went to a third world country, and she was specifically talking about breastfeeding. Did I say this? I can't remember if I
No, I don't
did.
think so.
I want to say it was like somewhere in Africa or Kenya or something. And she was basically just observing the tribes of women with their children. And she noticed the difference between, and she was from America. And so she noticed the difference between how rarely infants cried when they were with their mothers. And their mothers were
Mm-hmm.
out working and just going about their daily life. But they all had their babies in carriers, whether they were on the front or whether they were on the back. And so she
Mm-hmm.
noticed that in America compared to there, she was like, I hardly ever heard babies cry. It was very rare to hear that. And she asked one of the oldest women there, so like one of the elders that everybody looked up to and everybody went to with any sort of questions. I'm talking about our sense of community postpartum, but she was like, how come we don't hear babies cry that often? And I think the term they used was something like no no. So or like, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but basically like because they're on their moms and they're breastfeeding, like because
Mm-hmm.
they have access to that at any point whenever they want it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so foreign here. I mean, I've personally myself, even with my first, like I remember I put her in the bassinet and I was getting up and out of bed to pick her up and nurse her. And then I was like, I'm not doing this anymore because I could just nurse her and we could lay there and she would go back to sleep. And then when you're walking around and you're carrying them, like they want to either be held, they want to be snuggled, they might need a diaper change, they're hungry, they just want to be near you. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that this is so important for people to realize is that so much of like the parenting stuff where they're like, oh no, your baby just has colic or your baby is just difficult or whatever. It's like, no, that's a label. If you just put your baby on you,
Mm-hmm.
majority of the time, that will solve the problem.
Yeah, I actually don't believe colic is what we've been taught that it is. I believe colic is a reflection of the mother's nervous system.
Yeah,
And and
that's fair.
also the wearing your baby and those baby carriers also is a really great way to restore and repair your pelvic floor and strengthen it back up. Like in a gradual, totally natural way is baby wearing.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I think that of course the baby's not crying as much. And that's another thing too is when women are having struggles with breastfeeding and they come to me with these struggles, the first thing I say is get into bed, both of you get naked and just lay together,
Hmm.
right? And guess what? The mom doesn't have troubles breastfeeding anymore. It's like magic every single time.
Right. And that's the thing it's so fascinating to me. It's just that these biologically natural, normal things that if we just slowed down and paid attention to,
Hmm.
um, people would realize how much simpler and easier it can be. And
Yeah.
at the same time, like our world is not set up for that. Do you know what I mean? That's why I feel like conversations like this are so important because it's funny. I was actually just, I'm not one to like argue or anything on Instagram when people share something controversial or whatever. But it was interesting because I saw this man and he's married and he has a son and he was sharing how his take on co-sleeping, and it was actually basically saying like it has made my marriage so much better, it's made my wife's ability to bond with our son so much better, my ability to bond with our son so much better. And he was kind of just, he was like, I don't understand where we lost that when in other cultures it's so common and it's so familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fascinating to kind of see the back and forth. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I responded in a way like I always thought about how it made no sense to me to I'm not for sleep training, the whole cry it out thing.
No.
I have never even, and I've worked with kids for so long, I have never been able to participate in that. And
No.
they weren't even my children, but I was just like, I cannot be a part of this. Um, but I have always thought about the concept of animals and mammals in general, right? So
Mhm.
if you carried and grew and birthed a baby, and then whatever animal you are, say it was like a tiger or a lion or whatever, if they left their cub away from them in the middle of the night, they would get eaten if they made noise. Like they would
Yeah.
be gone. And
Hmm.
so I know that that might sound crazy to some people, but that's always what I've thought about. I'm always like, why would I ever take my baby who only knows the inside, like being on the inside, and then
Hmm.
snuggling with me all day and me responding to them all day and then just ignore them at nighttime? I've
Yeah.
never
Well, and
understood that.
no. And one of my biggest goals as a mother is to establish secure attachment in my children
Yeah,
so that when they grow up, become adults, well, they have grown up and become adults, but when they get there, that they have the capacity for secure attachment in their relationships with romantic partners or any of their friendships for that matter. But creating that, like building secure attachment, like building that foundation for secure attachment happens right after you have that baby. Like if you're keeping that baby on you, like I remember hearing an ex-mother-in-law be like, "You're spoil that baby. You're spoiling that baby." Like holding her all the time, right?
yeah.
And I remember thinking like being young, I remember thinking like, "Am I like I don't know.
Am
It
I
feels
doing the
right to
wrong
me.
thing?
Am I
Picking up
doing the
my
wrong thing?"
child?
But I'm like, no, what you're doing is building secure attachment, and that is so important. And like you were saying, if you look at other cultures, that it's pretty much the norm for them to have their children sleep in the same room as them
It
until the
is.
children are like 7 years old.
Yep. Even in, I
Yeah.
don't remember which, I want to say it's Japan. They call it like the river. So they have one parent on one side and one parent on the other, and the child in the middle. It's
Love that.
literally the norm in other
Mhm.
cultures and other parts of the world. And I don't know. I think that this is one of the things that I struggle so much with, and I'm just thankful that we're able to have conversations about, because I want these conversations to be normal. Is I feel like there's just this focus on gadgets, things, get your body back, get back to work, and there's not a family focus. It's not okay, what works well for the whole family? What
Mhm.
works well for the mom and the baby right now? It's just okay, well, we need to get the baby in their own space. I'm in my own space. And I think that causes so much anxiety or even depression in mothers. Like, and I know we don't like
Mhm.
labels, but like the general normal labels that they throw on it, they're like, oh, you had
Mhm.
postpartum blues, postpartum depression, anxiety about this, that, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, imagine being told constantly that you're doing the wrong thing by picking up to your baby, responding to your baby, wearing your baby, breastfeeding your baby, sleeping with your baby. If that
Mhm.
feels like what's right to you and everyone's telling you that that's the wrong thing, that
Yeah.
eventually will take a toll on the mom.
Yeah. And what you're saying, I think that when a mother is not, if her intuition is being silenced and she's not able to quiet all the other noise and the other voices and just listen to her intuition, I think there's like some booty sniffing happening. I
I'm
love
like, is there a
it.
booty in there?
So cute. But if her intuition is being silenced, then and she starts listening to those outside voices. And let's say she does put her baby in a crib, and then she goes and she tries to go to sleep and she's trying to do the right thing. I think that there's a confusion that happens and like a fragmentation that happens within that woman, within that mother, that she doesn't understand. And it's just another piece of mama starting to lose that trust in herself, or it's like another part of her losing trust in her intuition and her ability to mother, to the capacity that she feels like she's supposed to, right? And I think that actually that happens during our pregnancy and our birth, um, and that's how it directly plays a role in our postpartum, in our outsourcing during those times. It makes it so that we're like, can I trust myself? Can I trust that I'm making the best decision?
Okay, we're back. Had to take a brief pause. But what Britt was saying, I totally agree with. I feel like there's this detachment, and we kind of talked about it briefly before hopping back on, this detachment of like um, sharing these things and feeling like they can slow down and feeling like just this innate the way that we're wired, like there's it's just missing, because there's this push to get back, and older, not older societies, but older women maybe sharing their experience postpartum, and maybe they didn't have the best experience postpartum, like there was not. I feel like nowadays there's more of, okay, it's important, like the mother matters, you don't have to run back to work, um, or these are the the most magical years. I mean, I know having children, I feel like it gets better every year. But when they're so little and they're so precious and they're never going to be like that again, it's just like I don't understand why people are have this push and this desire to get back to that. But if it's starting during our pregnancy, like Britt was saying, and outsourcing, that it's almost like the same thing postpartum, like
Mhm.
people are already, when they're talking about their baby registries, people are already looking at daycares. They're already looking at all these different things for their postpartum, instead of really
Mhm.
focusing on what they'll need, what baby will need. um, and I feel like in a way there's also kind of fears about postpartum that are projected onto women, I mean, we've
Mhm.
talked about how I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before that, but how people would share birth trauma with other women who are either pregnant or who haven't had children yet. I also feel like there's almost like a an epidemic of like sharing your postpartum trauma, like people
Mhm.
who share, I had horrible postpartum. I was so depressed, or so this or so that. And I mean, that comes from a lack of attachment. That comes from a lack of community. That comes from a lack of support. And in our society nowadays, admittedly, like we're not right next to not everyone's right next to our families. And
Mhm.
so I just think that thinking about that and planning for that ahead of time is so important.
Mhm.
Um, Building that sense of community, building those resources. And is it easy to do? No, not necessarily. But will it help you in the long run? Yeah, it will. And having conversations with people who are like, this is what I did postpartum that was super helpful, or this wasn't helpful. Everybody's so different. And I just want people to remember that what works for one person or what happened to one person doesn't mean that you're going to have that same experience.
Mhm.
Like my
Yeah.
postpartum with my daughter versus my postpartum with my son have been drastically different, like night and day. But
Yeah.
my birth with them and my pregnancy, I mean, they were different too. So
Yeah. And that's where it's also important to prepare for birth and have knowledge of the birth process and have knowledge of, if you're stepping into the system to have a baby, you, whether that's bringing the system into your home or you're going through the doors of the hospital or a birth center, you want to have knowledge of the interventions that are being used, because a lot of the interventions, the narcotics that are used, and even the pitocin, there is a disconnect that happens during that, um, you receiving those medications. Like pitocin itself, what it's doing is it's shutting down your ability to produce oxytocin, and oxytocin is the bonding hormone. So if you are given pitocin at any point during your birth and even post your birth, um, which is done so regularly, it's super common. It's just like part of the normal protocol. If you're given pitocin, a lot of women report a coldness or a numbness that they feel emotionally. And if you're given narcotics or like through your IV, like like a fentanyl or something through your IV, or even the narcotics that you're given through the epidural, those drugs, they completely interfere with your body's ability, like I said, to like be producing the oxytocin that's needed to bond with your baby. So, sadly, a lot of women report feeling a disconnect with their newborn baby following their birth. And that doesn't just go away right after birth. That I really do believe a lot of postpartum depression could be completely prevented. Yes, support is super important, but also understanding birth and getting a good birth education, because if you can avoid, and I believe you can avoid having these interventions used, then you're setting yourself up for a much better postpartum. I would even say a very joyful, happy postpartum by avoiding any of these interventions.
Well, that's the thing though, is I feel like there's such a lack of informed consent, right?
Oh,
It's
for
not,
sure. Hmm.
there's no discussion about anything that you just shared. And then I've shared that with people. My husband's even shared that with people. And they're like, "What? I had no idea." And I'm like, "Yeah, because they don't tell you. It's just the norm." So they're like, "Oh, standard hospital protocol. It's just the norm." And they don't
Hmm.
realize that these drugs are not just impacting mom, they're impacting baby. They're
Oh
impacting
yeah.
mother and baby after baby's born.
Hmm.
Um, impacting, like you said, that bond, like that time is so, you can't get that back. You know what I mean? Like I
No.
think about, we've talked about our feelings on women being robbed of their birth experiences, but
Hmm.
it's not just the women who are robbed of it, it's their babies too.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's that attachment that they get robbed of, you know?
yes. That's what
Hmm.
I mean though. It's like I have a really hard time where like I've seen a couple of different scenarios where women were told that they needed to do this or needed to do that, and I knew what the outcome was going to be before it even
Hmm.
happened.
Hmm.
And sure enough, I've seen it time and time again, and it's just, it makes me so sad and mad
Hmm.
for moms and their babies, because when women are fear mongered in their most vulnerable moments, like
Hmm.
that doesn't just impact their birth. It also impacts their postpartum and their feelings about motherhood afterwards.
Hmm.
Um, and like you said, it's important for women to be able to process it. That's what you help women do. It's so important for women to be able to talk about their birth,
Hmm.
um, whether they had a traumatic birth or whether they had a good birth experience. It's so
Hmm.
important. Um, but to your point, the breastfeeding is really, really impacted by standard hospital protocol, and
Oh yeah.
so that's not talked about either. Like baby is not feeling attached to mom, baby's super sleepy, almost like lethargic in some cases.
Yeah, drugged. Hmm.
Yeah. And so I just remember, um, can we talk about breastfeeding now? I feel like I didn't even
Oh, yeah,
think
heck yeah.
we were talking about postpartum, and then I just
It's
realized I
all
should.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember I said this last time, like I had never seen anybody except my cousin and my family breastfeed,
Hmm.
but I knew that I wanted to, but I knew nothing about it. I literally knew nothing about it. Um, and I just had the mindset, I was like, I don't know anything about it, but I'm just going to do it. And I think it's something that I wish was talked about more, because there's like this push, right? I mean, we've talked about like big pharma and all the money that goes into that. Like the formula industry is pretty up there as well.
Oh
And
yeah.
so there's this push, right? That they even give pediatricians, hospitals, all these things. Here's our formula, give out samples. They'll even mail you samples if they somehow know that you are pregnant. Like that's
Yeah.
literally a thing.
Yeah.
And or people will be like, "Oh, breastfeeding's too hard. Just do formula, or just
Mhm.
substitute, or do this." And it's like, but did you even give it a try? Did anybody even like help you understand what was going on?
Yeah.
If you were having struggles with it, why was that happening? Whether if it
Hmm.
was baby or mom, what was
Hmm.
going on? Do you feel supported in that? Um, there's so many layers to it, and I just think that while I also like I get upset that moms and babies get robbed of their birth, like those birth experiences, I also feel sad for moms and babies who don't get to have that breastfeeding journey, who really, really wanted it, but they
Yeah.
just didn't have the education, or they didn't have the ability to do it because of their life circumstances or lack of support from family members or friends or meet like their husbands, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because that is for real. And there's also just this like, what's the word I'm looking for, stigma, like where like they people are like sexualizing breastfeeding.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, can we not? Like, this is literally the most natural thing. It's literally why we have breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And people get so offended by it.
Yeah. I remember one of my girls when she was younger, she was like, wait, I don't understand. How come men get to show their nipples and theirs aren't even used for anything, but we have to hide ours? That doesn't make any sense. And she was like really young, and I was like, you're right, girl. That does not make any sense.
No, my daughter's asked me, like, she'll, like, in the summertime, guys have their shirts off, and
Yeah.
she's still like, how come they get to have their shirts off, but we don't? It's a valid
Who made
question.
this decision?
And I said, I was explaining to her the other day, like in other countries, they have nude beaches. Like people just walk around
Yeah.
completely naked, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Um, but it is. It's like I wish more women knew more about breastfeeding. I wish it was normalized in families. And I do
Yeah.
think, like I was saying before, there is this kind of like coming back to ourselves, like what you say at the
Hmm.
beginning of our podcast. I feel like women
Hmm.
are realizing how powerful they are and how beautiful motherhood is in each
Yeah.
season of it.
Yeah, it
Uh,
really is. You know, a lot of women that come to my classes, one of the things that I hear really often is, well, I want to breastfeed if I'm able to. Like if I
yeah,
can, I want to. And so
yes,
there's this already limiting belief around breastfeeding that the majority of women that I've talked with that haven't been mothers before, they already have this belief that there's a high likelihood that I might not be able to. And, you know, when I start digging with them, like, where does this story come from that you might not be able to?
yeah,
Um, it does come from their mothers. Maybe they didn't. Grandmothers, maybe they didn't. Because if you think back, because I think it might have, do you know the date that they started pushing formula? And it was like only the elite people, only the elite women fed their babies formula. Poor women breastfed. Do you remember that
yes.
marketing? I mean, we weren't there for it, Liv.
No, no, no. I know what you're talking about though, because that they literally would have women be wet nurses. And
Yes.
it was like looked down upon,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is so crazy.
Yeah. So if we're looking, we're talking again about these wise women that we should be able to turn to for really brilliant advice. But look at what they've been through. And sadly, they were, their intuitive sense was taken from them, and they were robbed of these natural experiences that we're supposed to have in our lives as women. And nursing is Wow, nursing is one of the most beautiful bonding experiences. And it's not just about feeding your baby, you know, it's about a really beautiful, deep connection. And again, I'm going to say it, establishing this secure attachment that's so needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this also ties into what we were talking about before, like all these things that they tell you that you need, and talking about co-sleeping. Um, Women who sleep with their babies and breastfeed their babies tend to get more sleep. Like that's
Oh my
actually
goodness.
been proven. So then it's like,
Yes.
okay, everybody's benefiting from that, right? It's not
Hmm.
just it's like mom's getting more sleep, mom's body's able to heal, baby's getting more sleep. They have that attachment, that relationship with one another. Um, and like we said before, like if mom is doing well, mom's the one who's taking care of the whole family,
Hmm.
taking care of the kids. So mom's doing well, baby's doing well. Like it positively impacts everybody.
It
But
does.
think about when it's like a situation where this mother's told to go against everything that it wants to do, whether it's breastfeeding or sleeping with her baby or whatever it may be. There's just this push to separate mom and baby and all of that. And it's just, if that's not what feels best for mom, then why are we doing that? If
Yeah.
that feels so abnormal to her, like she's the
Yeah.
one who has that attachment with the baby. It's so
Hmm.
important.
It is so important. I will mention there is, as far as like purchases that I do feel like are like the only purchases I think you need to make if you're a new mom is one, the baby carrier that we're talking about, like a baby wrap or a baby carrier, whatever. I have both, but the baby wrap for infants is like the best to me. The other thing is a bumper, those little bumpers that go on the bed. Those I my my older babes, my older girls, I have had babies fall off the bed. That is something that I have had happen. That's not a fun way to wake up, and it's embarrassing to even say, but I think other mothers can hopefully resonate with that, with their babies falling off the bed in the middle of the night. But anyway, so you can get these little bumpers that you just put under the sheet, and they have kind of like grippies underneath, and then they stay on the edge of the bed. And I will tell you, this time around, I've not had a baby fall off the bed. And the peace that I have and the sleep that I get is so much better because of this dang bumper. So I'm not somebody that's like one to give advice for those registries or anything. But if you are looking for the best purchase you can make, I would say a baby, like wear your baby and have a bumper. It's such a it's such a saver.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got those bumpers too, but we also like I know we're talking about not needing things.
Yeah.
I did get one of those like the bed railings for like the side of the bed.
A sidecar type thing?
No, no, like literally it's like a railing you put underneath the mattress, like a bed
Oh.
rail, like a
Oh, kind
toddler
of like a
bed.
crib, but it's like just partial, like a
It's
wall.
just yeah.
Ah,
And my
cool.
one of my friends actually has one that goes around her entire bed.
Oh my
Because
goodness, that's
she's had
brilliant.
she's had four boys, and that was like super helpful for her. Um, and so I got the bed rail because the bumpers for me, like we did get those, but we didn't get them until my daughter was older. But having that railing there made me feel so much better because it was like I knew there was literally no way she could fall out of bed
I love
from that.
that.
And I do
Yeah.
the same thing. I've been doing the same thing this time around because I obviously don't want my baby falling out of bed. But
They
you sleep
survive it. Most of the time, I think they survive it.
better. Yeah.
Probably
But
depends on how high your bed is, but
well, yes, that was the thing. Is like with my daughter, that's why I got the railing because at that time our bed was so high, it made me
mine was
so
too with my
nervous.
first one. Yeah.
Yeah, it made me so nervous. And so as soon as I had that though, I was like, oh, I can sleep. Like I know she's here.
Hmm.
This she cannot go anywhere.
Hmm. Yes.
But like you said though, that sense of security and also just I don't know. I've talked to so many women where it was like if they knew that their baby was right there next to them and they didn't have to worry about being startled awake by their baby or whatever, they slept better because they weren't
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep because I don't know when my baby's gonna wake up type of thing.
Hmm.
So like, and also one thing that I've realized is so important that I definitely did with my daughter for like a portion of my immediate postpartum, but I didn't continue it, and I kind of wish I did. Was just going to sleep earlier, like the importance of like
Oh,
actually getting good sleep.
yeah.
And I know this obviously depends on everybody's life situation is so different. How many children
Hmm.
you have, how many children you have to put to bed. Um, but I've been literally going to bed at the same time as my daughter,
Hmm.
and um, admittedly, sometimes like they'll be sleeping and I'll stay up and do like editing things or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm still right there with them. And then some nights I just go right to sleep.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that. That's really good advice.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I look back and there were times where I would stay up so late and then I was so exhausted the next morning. I was like, why did I do that to myself?
Yeah, because like throughout the
Especially,
night, it's super normal to breastfeed through the night into toddler years. So it's not something you're
yeah.
doing for a short season. If you are really committed to forming secure attachment and that nursing relationship, then that's something you're doing for several years, ideally. So um, yeah, um, yeah, and another thing I want to mention because the question I get a lot when I'm encouraging co-sleeping, and I'm sure you've heard this before too, is like, well, what about SIDS? Like,
Yeah.
Or what about if I roll over on my baby in the middle of the night?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer to that is the rolling over on top of your baby. There is something that happens in us as parents, and I think it's fathers too. I believe it's fathers, but there is a lighter sleep that happens, and there's an
Mm-hmm.
awareness of your baby. Even
Mm-hmm.
in a deep sleep, there's an awareness of your baby. And I believe that's like innate in us. And
Yeah.
then the other thing I would say about SIDS is my belief around this is there's two things that I would consider is one, vaccinations and toxicity level. And if you look at the research and the deaths following the vaccination schedule, they line up pretty dang close. And the
Almost
other thing, what was that, Liv?
every time, almost
Every
in
time.
almost every case.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would mention is the women that are kind of pushed into bottle feeding. And I mean this in a way like not even just formula, but like bottle feeding. So, like pumping and then feeding with a bottle. So, babies can get over full. And
Yeah.
if their tummies get over full, that affects their respiratory system.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not trying to create any type of fear within mamas, but it's really just me advocating for breastfeeding. And that means breastfeeding, like actual nursing, using your breast and not pumping and having bottles and feeding with a bottle. Because our body and our baby, there's a direct communication that happens there while nursing that you can't replicate, you can't figure out by measuring, pumping, and measuring, because our body produces a different type of milk composition and a different amount of milk while we're nursing versus while we're using a pump.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you are strictly nursing your baby, breastfeeding your baby, then there is no overfeeding, right? Like that's not something that can even happen. Your body and your baby are directly communicating, and baby's getting exactly what babe needs.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually think that's one of the coolest things about breastfeeding
Oh, it's so cool.
is just that like the fact that if our baby is not feeling well, our body can help our baby by breastfeeding, but only specifically to them because their saliva and our body communicate with one another. I just think it's the coolest thing ever.
It's the coolest thing ever.
It's such a I mean it's how God made us, which I think is just amazing. It goes to show like there's a reason that we choose to breastfeed. There's a reason why I want moms to have that, and
Mhm.
babies to have that with their mothers. It's a miracle.
It really is. It's like our body's just intelligent design, his divine design. It's it's just like one of there's so many parts of our bodies that are so amazing, and the whole process of conception and creating and pregnancy, gestation, and then the whole birth process, like all of these things like stand alone are just like whoa. And
It's
then
mind blowing if
it
you think about
is,
it.
and then breastfeeding is just like the icing on the cake to me. I'm just like it's so beautiful.
It is.
Hmm.
And like you were saying about what people being worried that they'll roll over on their babies, I definitely agree with you that there is just like this sense of it's like a second sense, like this sense of awareness that when you become a mom, you just, I don't know. I feel like as soon as I became a mom, I was so aware of sounds at nighttime specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And not even just during the newborn phase. It was just like I am just very aware of the smallest little sounds.
Yeah.
Um, and you become so in tune to their movements. I think that was the piece I wanted to mention was like they're on the inside, right? So they their movements once they're born are pretty similar to what was happening in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been really cool to see with this baby because he was so active when I was pregnant, and he's the exact same way on the outside. Um, Literally almost down to like the time of night when he would be super active, um,
Mm.
is what I've noticed. And so I think you're just so in tune with your baby and you're so aware of that that it's very, I've never had that concern.
Mm-mm. And I'm sure that's just so unimaginable for anybody, any maiden on here, anybody that's not a mother. Like that, I'm sure it's just so unimaginable. Like, how do you not fear, about rolling over? It's just like there's just it's like some of those things that you just experience as a mother that you really can't explain.
Yeah. And also too, whenever they're talking about co-sleeping or safe sleeping, they always say like you should not be drinking, you should not be using drugs. Like that's the basis, you know? So I think if you are making the choice to co-sleep, you are doing that intentionally and being aware
Hmm.
of the choices that you're making.
Yeah, be a
Um,
responsible parent, right?
right.
Yeah.
And so the other piece too that I found so interesting was they always have the back to sleep campaign, right? Like babies on their backs. And in my experience, and even other moms that I've spoken to within the last couple of years, they're like, my baby slept so well on their belly,
Hmm.
um, on a flat surface. And I was watching them and I was aware of what they were doing. And I've experienced that same exact thing. And it's not for like the whole night or a long time or anything, but like this baby has slept on his belly happily
And
for
also,
like
it's the cutest way to see a baby sleeping. I don't know
it's
why that's
so
my favorite.
cute.
It's just so cute. Their little
Their
smoosh
little bum
cheeks.
up in the air.
Oh, you know what's so funny, Liv, is like I can remember they actually encouraged me to have Dylan, my oldest, my 23-year-old, they encouraged me to have her sleeping on her belly back then.
Oh, they
And
did.
yeah, and it's changed so many times and probably goes back further than I'm sure they changed it 10 times in the last 30, 40 years, right? Like I don't know. um, the advice just continues to change because I think that they're just making stuff up. It's like one of the many things they're just making
No,
up.
it's just like it's some sort of campaign. Like there's always
Well,
there's
and it's
something
backed
behind
by the sphere of SIDS, typically. Am I
it.
right?
Right. Yeah. So it's just I don't know. It's fascinating to me how much
It
everything
is.
has changed. And then what
Yeah.
is actually working for moms and babies? They're like, no, that's not it. You're
Mm-mm.
like, I wonder why you would say that. Is it going to be because you want me to buy your product, whether it's like some baby product or food product or formula or whatever? Um,
Right.
it's so interesting to me.
It is. It is really interesting. Yeah. I just, and I'm thinking like Dot, I think has pretty much just slept on her side. Probably just because she's like constantly nursing. She just loves to nurse. But
Yeah, that was my experience too.
yeah.
Nursing through the night.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I honestly love it.
I know. I do too. I find myself complaining about it a little bit here and there these days because
Yeah,
we're at 3 years now. But
yeah. I mean, I've been there. I nursed my daughter till she was 4, so
yeah.
I've
Okay.
been
Yeah.
there. And that
My
was the
older
other
girls, I only
thing.
nursed until they were like a year. But
Yeah,
also, I'd gone back to work. And
right.
so, I mean, yeah, I'd fractured that time with them by doing
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But that's the other thing too, though, is like I remember I felt so like misunderstood because I chose to keep nursing even
Hmm.
after a year and even after 2 years, and people did not understand it. Like did not understand it, and they were like, "Well, she can eat food," and I'm like, "Yeah, she can, but like my body has this ability to do this, and she still wants to do it, and I still want to do it, so." Here we are, and I think it's such a beautiful relationship that you get to have with your child. It's so special.
It is. Yeah.
But I don't know. I want women to know that anything that you feel is coming to you naturally as a mom in postpartum is probably where you should go.
And pray about it. And definitely pray about it. Yeah.
And talk to other women about it,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's so much stuff online, and then people are asking chat gpt all these things and it's like if you have somebody that you can reach out to who has who you know is familiar or aware of these things, or who you trust, or is a mother or friend or whatever. I feel like it's always good to just reach out to someone who will be reassuring and positive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like we talked about so many things. I feel like it always goes by so fast. And then I'm just like, oh my goodness, how did time go by so quickly?
It does. I love these conversations. They're so good.
I do too.
Mm.
So, yeah, if anybody has any questions about postpartum or breastfeeding, Britt and I obviously have our own experiences and knowledge with that. So, if there's anything that you guys are wondering about or curious about, feel free to reach out. And if not, we will be back to chat with you guys next week. Yay!
Yay.